All right, Coach. Here we go. 35 big minutes.
We have a lot of questions each.
Exactly. I'll take a few for you. We're joined now by Lon Kruger, the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. We have one question already. It's in the center. Our microphone handlers are returning from their union-mandated break, and here we go from question number one.
Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Lon, Jay talked a little bit yesterday about how his style of coaching and what he does works perfectly at Villanova, and it may not work anywhere else. What do you think have been the qualities in your career that have allowed you to go to various schools and various programs and succeed at each of them?
Well, I think Jay does such a good job. First of all, I can't imagine him not doing a great job everywhere because of what he does and how he does it. And I've always admired and the way his teams played and responded to him and played together. And so I think that probably works everywhere. I think our approach is very transparent. It's about time, investing time in players, working together, developing plans together, asking a lot of questions. I think our function as coaches is to create an atmosphere, an environment in which they want to be around. By being positive, hopefully, reinforcing confidence, promoting them, protecting them at times. If they come early to practice, if they stay late, if they want to be there, then we're probably doing the right thing. If they come late to practice and get away right after, we don't see them very much, then it's probably on us. So we feel like that's our function, is to create that environment in which they want to get there and they're anxious to work to be great every day.
Next question is going to be all the way on the right side, in the back, to the left of the aisle.
Hi, Coach. Ralph Russo from the Associated Press. Something a little off topic from Villanova. Wondering how you handle players transferring out of your program. Do you have any policies that might restrict where they can go? And also, do you think it would be beneficial if the NCAA had some type of standardized policy for transfers?
Each case would be unique. It's hard to say, just put a blanket over everything. It's hard to say as it relates to guys transferring out. I think NCAA continues to try to get to a point where it's a little bit more standardized, and yet we're a work in progress, it appears. It's the fifth-year transfer, that's kind of bounced around a little bit. When coaches change jobs, that's kind of bounces around a little bit. So it's, I think it's more individualized, more each situation's treated a little bit differently for good or bad.
The next question's on the right side, toward the front, just to the left of the aisle.
Myron Patton Fox in Oklahoma City. How have you handled the Final Four being as big as it is? Have you kind of restricted players or let them enjoy it? And just how have you handled everything compared to the other two rounds?
We're basically the same thing. Obviously, it's bigger. We talked to players on Sunday about, let's get, when we leave town Wednesday, let's have all the ticket issues dealt with. Let's have all the, know what family's going to be there. Let's really get that work done early so when we go to Houston, we can focus more on what's happening in Houston. While they've been here, we've had a couple blocks already each day where they've had time with family and friends in the afternoons. We want them to experience that. We want them to look around. We want them to take it in and yet not lose focus on winning a two-game tournament, just as they've done the last 2 weekends. And this group's done a good job of that. They understand what's at stake. They understand the stage. They understand how good the opponents are. And yet they've been able to relax and enjoy time with family as well.
We're going to move to the left side, to the left of the aisle.
Yeah, Lon, John Hoover, the franchise. We talked to Joe Castiglione yesterday, and he kind of recalled the story of you turning him down twice when he flew out to Las Vegas and said, I really want to meet with you. Let's get President Boren involved. You turned him down 2 times. I asked him why he was so persistent. I'd like to ask you, why were you so reluctant, and what made you come around? I also have a follow-up question to that. So why were you so persistent? What made you finally come around?
Well, I wasn't reluctant about Oklahoma at all. Barb and I, love living in Las Vegas. We love the people in Las Vegas, very ingrained in the community. Loved, Barb was terrific with a lot of different charitable organizations. we just kind of went there with the idea that that would be our last stop, so we really didn't think about anything else. But Joe, was persistent, and we're obviously pleased that we missed folks in Las Vegas, but we're very, very happy with what's happening in Norman, and love the people in Norman, and look forward to finishing it up there.
And we'll let you follow up.
Okay, thanks. We also talked to Steve Hansen yesterday, and he recalled a story of playing Follow the Leader at your home in Florida. He said he was in the peak of his career. He was in his 20s. He just finished playing, and you held your own with him shooting-wise. He said after 3.5 hours of Follow the Leader, what was supposed to be just a little fun thing, 3.5 hours, you needed to change your shoes. You were bleeding through your socks. Barbara brought you a Band-Aid and a new pair of socks. What do you recall about that day, and why was it important to keep playing with Steve? And does that maybe define a little about you?
Well, Steve, during the offseason, he played 8-9 years professionally, and during the offseason, he'd always come back and work out wherever we were. And it was probably a case of, I remember we had several of those type. It was nothing more than shooting. It wasn't moving around or jumping a lot. But we had a lot of those fun battles, and it probably took that long because I was probably behind most of the way, and we had to keep going to get a chance to catch up. But no, he was terrific, and we've always appreciated him, and excited for both Steve and Lou now, with Steve going to University of Texas San Antonio and as a head coach, and Lou going to University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. Very excited. They'll both do a great job, be terrific with players, be great in the community. And Barb and I love the Valley and San Antonio as well, so that'll give us an extra reason to get down there and visit a little bit more often.
On the right side, but to the left of the aisle.
Hey, Lon, Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman. I know you got asked a lot yesterday, as did your players, about shooting in a big arena like this. There are some stats out there that say since the elevated floors come in that shooting percentages may have lagged a little bit in Final Fours, but do you feel like there's so many other factors when it comes to these games that it can't just be that, or what's sort of your feeling on whether that's overblown in the way shooting goes in the Final Four?
Well, shooting is important, especially for our club. I was pleased yesterday. There's so much conversation about it, and players get asked about the stadium effect. And, I was pleased yesterday that we did shoot it well. The first couple we clanged up there pretty bad, and I'm thinking, we don't want this to get in their head. But then after that, we shot it pretty normally. And I think the players came away from there comfortable that all those questions really, were just that. It really didn't play into the way they shot it. So, but there are so many other things, getting loose balls, trying to get easy buckets. Baskets oftentimes are tough to come by at this point, and especially as good as Villanova is defensively. And I thought we were pretty sound defensively last week in Anaheim. So we know, possessions are important, and try to emphasize that and try to get as many easy baskets as we can, and also knock down some shots.
We're going right up front in the middle.
Coach, Nicholas Frost from Kingwood Park High School. What is the biggest distraction to you and your team during the Final Four?
Well, the setting itself, I think the stage itself, so many people from all over the world travel here to be a part of this, and we have the honor of being, one of the 4 teams playing. So the attraction probably what it will mean to the players for the rest of their lives, that's the most appealing thing to me, even though they don't fully realize it right now. They'll share a special bond with everyone involved in this event. They'll share a special bond with the city of Houston. They'll have that logo, in their mind the rest of their lives, and just even though they don't fully realize it today, just how much that will mean to them throughout their lives. And whenever they talk to teammates or think of the city of Houston, they'll have that special memory of them being one of the 4 teams here. So it's great. It's an honor to be here, and I want them to fully appreciate it and not ever take even playing in the NCAA tournament for granted.
Continuing with questions for Coach Kruger on the right, Jenny.
Hey, Coach, Villanova used more zone this season than they probably have under Jay during his entire time there. But you guys shoot a lot of teams out of zone. You've seen it, obviously. Baylor uses it. Texas used it some. When you see it, I mean, what do you tell your guys, and what do you see as the reason that you guys have been able to be so effective against any zone?
Baylor zoned. We haven't been zoned very much, like you say. Baylor does a little bit, Texas a little bit, but really, our guys. We've seen very little zone other than that, and our guys seem to just, they kind of perk up when they see zone. We got a lot of guys that shoot it well. Ryan passes the ball well out of the middle. Kadeem's pretty good with it all along the baseline. So, we've had good rhythm, good movement of the ball, and then we shoot it in rhythm. So guys kind of, we've seen zone. We've had the good fortune, I guess, of stepping up and making shots to where people haven't played it very much. So, but Villanova's zone is good, and we'll have to step up and make shots to hopefully not have them want to stay in it.
We have a question on the right side for Barry.
Barry Tramel with the Oklahoma. Lon, I saw where Kelvin spoke to your team, I think this morning.
Yep.
What was the occasion there? Was that a planned thing? Was that just circumstance? And what kind of message did he have for your guys?
We had our practice at the University of Houston this morning, their new practice facility, which is outstanding. And, Kelvin was gracious enough to come by and meet our guys beforehand and talk to them about how proud he was for them and how happy he was for them and wish them luck and tell them to enjoy it, embrace it. Hollis Price was there as well. So it was really, really nice of him, and our guys appreciated that. And he and Karen, good friends. We've known him for a long, long time, and he's done a terrific job with the Houston program already. Got that going in a great direction.
Follow up for Barry.
Yeah, along those lines, you've talked about the Oklahoma brand, one of the things that attracted you to Norman. Generally, that means football and the overshadowing of other sports with football. But Oklahoma basketball, you now have been in Final Fours with 4 different coaches. I think only 4 schools have had more coaches take them to the Final Four. What does that mean about the Oklahoma basketball job? Going back to Kelvin, going back to Billy, even going back before Tubbs, back into Bruce Drake.
It's an outstanding basketball tradition. Obviously football is terrific, and Coach Stoops is fantastic, as all the other sports, whether it be gymnastics or softball or golf or tennis. It's just a terrific department, and the relationships among the coaches in the department are outstanding, and they're supportive of each other. The athletes are supportive of each other. That goes back to Joe C. and his leadership without question. But tradition is great. When you start listing the all-time great players at Oklahoma, you're kind of awed by the names on that list. And if you start listing them, you go pretty deep in terms of names that are very recognizable and have had a big impact in college basketball.
Staying in the same area on the right side.
Do you take anything away from the game in December when you guys won by 23? Anything you take out of that? And I've got a follow-up after you answer.
Yeah, not a lot. We when you line up against people, oftentimes at this point, you're not sure really how big they are or how fast they are until you get out there. We kind of know that about each other, so that's probably the takeaway. But other than that, they didn't make shots. We did on that particular day. I was watching the film video of that game, and I was hoping to see us be just better. And that wasn't the case. They just didn't make shots, and we did. But otherwise, it was an even game with a couple minutes to go in the first half, and it could have gone either way. Had they made the next 3 or 4, and had we missed them. So our guys have great respect for Villanova. We watched them be the number 1 team much of the latter part of the season, last 4 or 6 weeks, and of course watched them play a lot and know how good their players are and the great job that Jay does.
And we'll allow for the follow-up.
Also, when you look for keys to your game to win, do they change, or do you still have some basic keys, things you have to do every game, no matter who the opponent is?
We start with a core group of things. Transition defensively is always big to us. Rebounding is always big to us. Those are 2 things where you're trying not to give up easy baskets to the opponent. Loose balls, trying to get loose balls, trying to do things all teams want to do, but we try to focus on each of those areas, moving the ball offensively, creating opportunities for each other, trying to get out in transition, try to get some pace to the game, and we're much more comfortable when we're able to do that. Villanova has been very good doing either, playing with pace or half court. So, but then you kind of tweak it for the individual opponent. But Villanova's got so many things to worry about, and you have to address that. It's not just one player or one piece of the game. They do so many different things well.
All the way to the front and all the way to the left.
Oklahoma met Villanova early in the season, and the Sooners prevailed above the Wildcats. How has the team prepared to replicate these results in tomorrow afternoon's game?
We'd love to do that. Easier said than done, of course. They're a different team right now. They're playing with a great amount of confidence, shooting the ball very well. Didn't shoot it well on that day. They guard with passion. They're very sound defensively. They've got Ochafu, the big guy inside, surrounded by 4 really good players on the perimeter. They just do a lot of things well. They play the game the right way. Jay's teams generally do that. Again, very sound on the defensive end, share the ball on the offensive end, very unselfish. So we've got to play well to have a chance to win.
And we're going to follow up on the front left.
Coach Jay believes that throughout the season, Villanova has become increasingly more skilled when it comes to playing the game. Do you feel like your team has also improved since you played Villanova last?
I believe we have. Certainly Villanova's playing great. Feel like we're coming out of a couple weekends. We've probably played as well as we have, especially late in the year. On the defensive end, I thought we had a couple of really good stretches in both the Texas A&M game and the Oregon game last weekend, and able to create a little bit of a margin because of that. So I feel good about the way our guys are playing, and as Jay has said, I think both clubs are playing probably with as much confidence right now as we have all year.
We're going to go all the way to the right and all the way in the back, Coach.
Coach Aaron Torres, Fox Sports. I was just with Buddy over in his breakout room, so I apologize if some variation of this question has been asked. But the media contingent here is so large, and Buddy himself is such a big star. Is there any fear on your part or on the coaching staff's part that it's all too much for him? It's just so different than anything else you see over the course of the year.
It is different, no question about that. And yet Buddy's handled all of that very well, even though it's different here, it's grander. He's been remarkable in how he's handled it. And he passes deflects praise to his teammates. He's always talking about team. He's very proud and very confident of what he's accomplished. And yet he always includes team. He always includes teammates. He's always talking about Isaiah, about Jordan, about Ryan, about the other seniors. And I think because of that, it's kind of a routine and yet bigger when you get here. And Mitch Heckert and others have done, our sports information, have done a really good job of helping Buddy manage time. And again, we try to get a lot of that dealt with on Monday, Tuesday, early in the week. So when we come here, we've got specific issues to address and take care of.
In the front, on the left side.
Coach Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. To piggyback on that, when you have a player of the year type like Buddy, it can become a monster unto itself. How have these other guys handled all this attention and stayed kind of level-headed with all the attention going to Buddy?
That's a great point, and that the potential for that when one guy garners so much attention and so many accolades, and yet because of the way Buddy's handled it, the other guys have fallen right in line, and they recognize that Buddy's at the core of everything we do offensively, and yet they also know that because of attention Buddy gets from defenses, that they've got to be able to step up and deliver when needed, and those other guys have done that time after time. As Jay has said, it's not just Buddy. The other guys are good players, and Buddy knows that. And the game against A&M in Anaheim last weekend, I thought showed as much security out of a big-time scorer as I've ever seen. A&M face guarded him and got up into him, and because of that, Buddy was able to keep his defensive guy out of the rotations defensively, and we were able to get some lobs to the bucket. Buddy was able to set some screens, get 10 rebounds. He was the happiest guy in the arena. Afterwards, when Jordan stepped up and made shots, Isaiah stepped up and made shots, Ryan, Christian James, other guys played well. So Buddy knows, and the team knows, they need each other. They really do. It's not a case of Buddy being able to do it without the others, nor the others being able to do it without Buddy. So again, I think their experience, their maturity, being an older group, has allowed them to handle that pretty well. It really hasn't been an issue at all. So that's to their credit.
To the right of the aisle, Andy.
Lon, and I have a quick follow there, Mark. What must Ryan and Kadeem do well tomorrow night for you guys to win?
When we've played our best, Kadeem's been a big factor, blocking shots, rebounding the ball, defensively in the low post. He's been very active here of late. He's been able to stay out of foul trouble here of late. A few games there, he's picking up that second foul early in the midway in the first half, and that was limiting him a little bit. So we need him to avoid that second foul. Ryan just needs to bring that energy that he brings, that desire to rebound the basketball, the ability to knock down a shot or two, maybe score a little bit in the low post, offensive boards, but just most importantly, just that personality of leaving it all out there, and great awareness defensively that he has. Talking, he's kind of our leader defensively from the interior, but we need those guys to step up and have big games, no question about it.
Andy, you wanted to follow?
One quick follow. Lon, did you have to say anything to these guys, or how much was it understood that Buddy was going to be the guy and that they would fall in line so that they weren't sort of trying to get theirs to impress scouts, and things that we've seen on some other teams with a star player that didn't work as well?
Going in, we didn't anticipate Buddy scoring whatever 25 plus whatever he's at now. Early on, it kind of evolved that way pretty quickly, but we didn't go in expecting that. But the players know where the ball needs to go. They know who can get results for them. They had no trouble throwing it to Buddy, and Buddy's done a good job too. Buddy doesn't force many shots. He takes what sometimes he's a high percentage shooter. Some of them may be a little bit guarded, but there's still shots that Buddy can make. So I can probably count on, in 37 games, whatever we've played, he just hasn't taken many bad shots. And with a scorer like that, usually you're going to give him a lot of freedom, which we do, but he hasn't abused it, and the other players appreciate that as well.
Going to the row right behind.
Hey, Coach. Annabelle Stefan, Big 12 Digital Network. We've seen the support from the fan base, whether they're traveling to the games or meeting the team in Norman at all hours of the night. What has that support really meant to you and your team this season?
It's been a lot, Annabelle. This group of seniors and players, have affected our culture, and we'll have that effect for many years after they're gone. And the fans have fallen in love with this group because they've gotten to know them, because a lot of seniors, they like the joy they play with. They like their unselfishness. They play with that enthusiasm. They practice that way. And we have a lot of fans that practice every day, and I think they get to know them from that as well. So I think the student turnout has been fantastic. That's kind of the cornerstone for any atmosphere on any college campus. And then the arena's been sold out every game. So, and that's because of these guys. And they've been fantastic, and they give back to the community. They do a great job academically, and I think all that together, the fans really, really appreciate being represented by this group.
We have another question out there. We're just going to take one moment, and we're going to have the student athletes join us on the dais. You guys want to come up? Let's take the question as the student athletes are coming on. All the way in the back to the left.
Hi, Coach. Jerome Solomon from the Houston Chronicle. How are you balancing allowing the guys to enjoy the moment, to soak it all in, to visit family and friends versus the hardcore preparation for an actual game?
Yeah, that's our goal in coming here. Is we want them to take it in. We want them to see it and feel it and look around and not leave thinking, I didn't know all that went on at the Final Four. And yet not cross that line and lose focus on why we're here, and that is to win a two-game tournament. This group, I think, with the leadership and maturity of our older guys, especially, they've done a good job with that. They've been focused throughout the year at moments where they've needed to be, and this is no different. They've practiced well this week. They've practiced well since we've been in Houston, and yet enjoyed some time with family and friends, and we want them to do that. Again, all this is great, it's all grand, but the memories that these guys are taking from here are very special, and the thing that I'm most excited about for them, because they're here for a few days, but those memories are forever, and they'll think about each other every time they talk about the Final Four. They'll think about the Final Four every time they talk to each other, and I know how special that will be for them.
And joining us up here right now, Isaiah Cousins, Kadeem Latin, Ryan Spangler, Jordan Woodard, Buddy Hield. Their teammates are available still in the Oklahoma locker room for the next 7 or so minutes. We'll take questions for the student athletes and for Coach Kruger at this time. I do need to remind everyone, please refrain from using any flash photography and no video recording here in the main interview room at any time for the rest of the weekend. The next question is in the back toward the center for Chuck from the Washington Post.
Yeah, Chuck Culpepper from the Washington Post. Lon, what are some specific ways that coaching day to day is easier when you have 4 guys who have triple-digit college games in they've played?
It makes it much easier, not just because they've started consecutively whatever number of games, but because of the way they've approached each day with their work ethic, the team first type attitude, their selflessness, in terms of not caring about really, who gets it done, but just moving the ball. And they know each other very well, and they know where the ball needs to be. And when, they do that day after day after day. You never have to talk about enthusiasm. You never have to talk about energy. You never have to talk about getting up extra shots. So it makes coaching a lot easier when you've got a group like this.
The next question's in that same area for Matt.
Matt Norlander, CBSSports.com. Lon, I've discovered that your college nickname was Slick, so if you can tell us, you need to tell us, oh, look at Isaiah. Who gave you the name, and what is its origin? The world needs to know.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He knows. Tell us.
I think it started, I'd like to say it started because I was pretty smooth, and yet it was probably more about the haircut. I started growing up, I was one of 6 children, 5 boys. So we, didn't want to spend that money on a barber, so Dad bought himself a pair of clippers, and the only thing he could do was kind of give us a burr cut, So I think that was probably what it started with, kind of the haircut with being that burr look back in that day. Wish I could give you a more exciting answer, but that was about it.
The next question's up a little bit to the right of the aisle. Andy.
This is to Isaiah. I want to go back to that LSU game. So much obviously was focused on Buddy Hield. He had a great game in that game. And Coach was just talking about before you guys got up there about how the fact that he doesn't abuse the fact that he's going to take a lot of shots. I'm curious from your vantage point, when you took that game winner and that game winner was set up for you, how much did that sort of help your confidence and almost sort of change the dynamic of this team that you didn't always have to rely on Buddy Hield?
That game just from a standpoint, I was a lot confident just making shots and making plays for my teammates. Just basically just feeding off Buddy, and I know if people focus so much on Buddy, I know that we have players on the team that make shots, and even myself, and I could just find rhythm and just make a shot for my teammates.
Next question's coming on the right side for Barry.
Yeah, Barry Tramel, the Oklahoman. Kadeem, we hear a lot and we write a lot about what a nice guy Lon Kruger is and what a gentle soul he is. But people that know him say he's ultra competitive. Is that something that you recognize as well? Or on the inside, is he as competitive as any other coach?
Definitely, Coach Kruger. He's calm and even keel, but he's a competitor and a fierce competitor, and he hates losing as much as we do.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes or for Coach Kruger from Oklahoma. If you have a question, raise your hand. There's one on the left side to the left of the aisle.
Hi, Florian Martin with Houston Public Media. The coach addressed this earlier, question on the NRG effect, that teams tend to shoot a little worse here. I was wondering how it affects you all you guys. Is there something that can you just kind of describe how shooting is here compared to in other arenas or other stadiums?
And we'll ask Jordan, followed by Buddy, to take that. How do you feel about shooting in a dome arena like this?
No, it's just 94 feet with 2 goals. Coach, he's going to expect us to make shots no matter where we at. So we're going to have to make shots in order to win.
And Buddy?
Like Jordan said, we just got to go down and make shots. We've been making shots all year. So we shouldn't have the effect of shooting in the arena. I know it's big, but we're going to light up them all for sure.
We have time for a few more questions for the student athletes or for Coach Kruger. If you have a question, please raise your hand. There's one on the right side to the left of the aisle.
This is for Ryan. The Final Four is such a big event, and I know you guys have been to the tournament before. You've obviously won games to get here, but talk about just everything you guys have done this week and how that affects you. How do you keep that from being overwhelming you about the game?
Well, I think coaches kind of split our time up pretty good. We have time in the day where we can hang out with our family and friends, and that's time where you kind of take in the Final Four and cherish it. And then you got time where you have practice and film, and that's time when you lock in and focus on the game. And we want to take this Final Four in, but at the same time we have to stay focused and get ready for tomorrow.
We have time for one final question. If there is one, please raise your hand. Is there a final question? There's one on the right side for Jenny.
For Ryan, do you now expect to start calling Coach Slick? You guys looked pretty enamored with that name.
He might make us run for that, but hey, that's a good name. He's pretty slick at everything he does. Whether that's drawing plays on the board or what, he's pretty smart, and so that name fits him pretty good.
He's not gonna make us run no more. We're done soon.
I'm not.
And with that, we'd like to thank Coach Kruger. We'd like to thank Isaiah, Kadeem, Ryan, Jordan, and Buddy for joining us here in the main interview room. The Oklahoma locker room is
I had the
now
Mohawk
closed.
first.
A lot of quality time for us today, Coach.